Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to the Spanish Breakfast Show live on YouTooSpain. I am Skatz, and in today's show, I'll be talking to our resident expert live from Malaga once again, all about the Padrón. What is it? What is it for? And why you need to be on it if you're living in Spain. As usual, you can ask your questions live right now in the chat box over there or down there, depending on which, whether you're on a phone or a PC or whatever. If you're not watching live, you can ask in the comments below, and either way, we'll get you the answers you need. My lovely wife, Liz, is looking in on the chat under the name YouTube so she'll be keeping an eye on the questions in case I miss any and giving you the benefit of her wisdom too. Give her a wave. Hello, Liz. I've had some of you asking about the t-shirts, about the hoodie. So you can get these in various colors and t-shirts and mugs and phone cases too. And the link to the merch page is in the video description below. So there's your answer. Thank you for asking. Without further ado, let's meet my guest for the day. It's the wonderful Chris from Upsticks. Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
It's great to have you on the show again. We were just saying it's now less than 18 weeks until I'm going to be there too. So I can't wait, and we'll crack open a bottle of something really tasty, but extremely cheap,
sure.
probably.
Yeah. Or two.
Good.
Not too cheap. Not too cheap.
Not too cheap. No. But I mean, there's some really nice stuff for like 150.
Yeah. Is it? We are blessed. Nice, decent bottle of Cava isn't too expensive, so we're good.
Oh, yes, I like Cava more than champagne, so we'll do that.
Yeah.
So let's get on to some questions, because we could talk about Cava all day, but I think there's people watching who need some answers. So
that's another show.
It is, yes, the Cava. That's it. That's the subject for 2 weeks' time. Cava.
Yeah. Cava.
Anyway, what is the Padrón? What's it used for? Let's have the basics to start with.
Right, so Padrón, when you sign on the Padrón, the first thing, obviously, we always refer back to the certificate that you receive once you've signed on the Padrón register, don't we? So the Certificado de Empadronamiento or Volante de Empadronamiento. But you don't automatically get one of these unless you need one. But generally, when you do go and sign on the Padrón, then they will give you a receipt of that, which is your certificate. So signing on the Padrón basically is like a local electoral roll. So you're signing on at your local town hall, and that basically is your place. You're signing on as your place of residence, where you live in Spain. And then by signing on there, the town hall, what they can do is use, by having an X amount of people signed on, and depending on how many people they've got signed in their town hall, they then use that as extra leverage with the government to ask for more money. So I think there's a scale of up to X amount of people, and the more amount of people you have, they can go to central government and ask for more funds. So that also covers why it's very important.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
That's why it covers. It's very important if you are living in Spain and you are a resident to actually sign on the Padrón at your local town hall, because not only for what we're going to talk about today does it help you, it also helps your local town.
Which is good for everybody. Is it a form of ID as well?
No, it's not a form of ID. It's a form of proof of address. So it's a form of proof of address. It's the most common form of proof of address here in Spain that you would use in all organisations, basically. So yeah, when I say the proof of address, it's the which we'll touch on later on when we're talking about timescales. But the actual certificate itself, along with your ID, proves your address in Spain.
So it's different from residency. So people don't want to get confused over that.
No, Padrón isn't residency. It isn't residency, and we can touch on that as well. Regarding, sometimes there's a chicken and egg situation where people like, we need a Padrón to get residency, but we can't get a Padrón without residency, if that makes sense. So sometimes in some areas you come across this sort of chicken and egg, but all intents and purposes, you should be able to sign on the Padrón without being a resident, as long as you can identify yourself with your ID.
Okay. And is it something you need to keep proof with you in your car, for example?
No. So it's not something you need to keep on you at all. And I say it's not something that you need unless you need to use it for something. So I mean, shall I run you through what you probably need to actually get signed on the Padrón before we go into what you use it for?
Go for it. Yeah.
So Every town hall and every place has its slight nuances and is slightly different. But generally, and even now, you have to book an appointment first of all to go and present the documents to sign on the Padron. That's across the board really now with COVID restrictions in place and that. There's not many places you used to be able to just rock up and say, oh, I want to get a Padron, but now you can't. So the first point of call would be see where you book your appointment. Now, the town hall websites, I have to say, have greatly improved across the board in Spain during the lockdown and during the pandemic. So normally you can book an appointment online and see. If you've got various big municipalities like Mijas, for example, has various offices which you can visit. So they have their main office in Mijas Pueblo, but then they've also got offices in Las Lagunas, in La Cala de Mijas. So it's worth checking the availability of the appointments in different places, because although there's different offices, you can go to any one of those offices within your municipality to get your Padron certificate.
Okay.
So that always helps. Like, for example, if we need a really quick one from Mijas, then you can't get booked in on the coastal office, but you can certainly get up to the Pueblo Nilian, the day after and get a certificate from there. So in terms of the requirements, the first one is you definitely have to identify yourself with your national identification document. So whether that is your passport, or if you're from another EU country, you might have an ID card. You definitely have to have that. That's the first thing. You won't be able to get signed on without that. If you have an NIE certificate, or you've also been through the process of your residency and managed to get a residency without a Padron, then definitely take that with you as well, because they'll probably use your NIE number instead of your passport or national ID number as your ID number on the Padron. And then more importantly, you have to take proof of where you're living. So the proof of where you're living is generally, if you own a property, then you would have to take the property deeds, and if you've got some supporting documentation like a utility bill, a recent utility bill, or even an IBI bill, which is issued by the same town hall, by the way, but sometimes they'll ask you for that. Then, or an up-to-date notice simply, which is a land registry document which proves that you're the current owner of the property. Then that proves that this is your address and you live there and you're the current owner of that property. And with that, that's sufficient to sign on the Padron. Sorry about that. If you're renting, then there are some stricter requirements. So first thing is, most town halls insist you have a minimum of 6-month rental contract to sign on the Padron. I did notice that one of the questions that you sent me through was regarding students and temporary accommodation. Don't know, that's a tough one. That would have to be dealt with directly. I haven't got black and white answer to that one. All I can tell you is that if you have got less than a 6-month contract, normally they won't let you sign on the Padron. And in some circumstances, in Alicante, I've had clients reporting back that they've requested a minimum of 11 months on a contract.
That's an odd number.
Yeah, I think it's something to do with, and I'm not au fait, it's probably a question for Darren, the estate agent, regarding the legalities of contracts, if it's more than a year or something like that. I don't know, that's something for him to answer, but I think they do 11 months because some legality regarding the rental contracts. So that's it. So you need a rental contract, but you'd also need to take along a utility bill or something that proves that person who's rented you the property is the legal owner of that property and can legally rent that property to you. And they will check in their records to make sure that person is the legal owner of the property that you're trying to rent. So we've had it on occasions where clients have gone with a rental contract and the daughter has actually done the contract, but the property is in the mother's names. The daughter will have the property, but they've said, no, we're not doing it. It has to be your mother who actually has the contract. So.
Okay. What about the nota simple as well? Is that one of the things you can use?
On both occasions, yes. So nota simply from the land registry which you can get either from a land registry, and they'll be like about €4. There's actually a very good company online which we use, which called registro.es, which for €20 get you them without leaving the office, and put them in your inbox within 24 hours. So that's quite handy to know. So if you're renting and the owner of the property gives you an up-to-date notice simply, brilliant, that proves that they can rent to you. And if you've got a property, then take a notice simply with you, and also proves that it's your property.
Good stuff. That's some very good information here. Thank you for that. If you're viewers, if you're getting anything from this, then don't forget to click on the like button. Thank you for that. So you said there were benefits for the municipality.
Yes.
What are the benefits?
So, well, first of all, if you've got 4 members of family, you should all sign on the Padron. So that's a good idea. And initially, when you go to sign on, all of you have to be there. Now, on some occasions now, again, because of the pandemic, recently we assisted with one in the town Estepona. And they were quite happy for us just to get a family sheet, turn up with the original passports and birth certificates, which I should have mentioned. Sorry, minors normally have to present a birth certificate. And normally, if it's not in Spanish, that would need to be translated by a registered translator. They were happy there in Estepona for us to assist with a client, but the family not to come as long as we had the passports.
Okay.
And
is there some way of doing it as a collective, or is it like a family unit, and it's just like one Padron, or is it just individual?
You can you all sign on. So if we imagine the Padron is a register, and then the proof of that signing on, you can get in various different forms. So you can either get individual certificates, or you can get collective certificates. So, for example, they give me an example why you would need a collective certificate, because so for the Social Security, for example, when we registered our children, we've got a collective certificate, and they prefer to see everybody on one piece of paper, the household unit. We've recently done our tax returns here, Declaración de la Renta. It's just easier to have a collective certificate if you have to prove how many people are in the household, to send that off to your accountant, and they can say, oh yeah, so they can actually see on the certificate, because it does affect your tax return if people who are in that household. So that's why you would need maybe a collective one, or you might have an individual one. Say for example, my wife wanted to go and buy a car, and she was the one who was going to be registering it in her name. Then she might just go down a town hall, get an individual Padron, no need to have a collective one, and use that to register the car.
Would they not be able to use the collectivo one?
They would. It wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, I think, to be honest, we always use collective ones. If we ever need an update one, I just said, I'll just give us a collective one, and as long as you're figured on there, it's fine.
Yeah, fair enough. And now a question that's come in on the Facebook group as well. Does everyone have to be on it, whether you're resident or not?
That's a good one. Well, we discussed this earlier, didn't we? Well, now, in my, I have to offer an opinion here, if that's allowed. In my opinion, if you're a non-resident, i.e. just got holiday home, you shouldn't be on the Padron. I know being on the Padron helps the town halls and stuff, but I think there's too many, it's too grayscale, and if you're not living here and you're a non-resident, I don't think you should be on there, apart from the fact to protect yourself, because the tax office here, although you're probably doing everything correctly, they will jump on anything to use as proof of you're living here, and it can muddy the waters with your fiscal situation, for example. Though there are town halls here which are encouraging non-residents to sign on, and saying that it wouldn't affect them fiscally. So I could only offer an opinion, but I don't think it's a good idea for non-residents to sign on. Resident, yes, you should be on, definitely, 100%. And I think most residents here are signed on because they'll need that document for something.
I've got I think that was this John Wittenberg. Let me just put his there we go. I've got my share screen on. John Wittenberg was saying I was on the Padron in Benalmádena for many years until 2 years ago when they insisted that I have to be a resident to renew. So, and he says I never have been. I thought it was in their interest to have a maximum of homeowners on the Padron. So I asked him, why were you on the Padron in Benalmádena? But he hasn't replied yet. That was many hours ago.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a funny one, actually, because there is places like, I say, Marbella, who encourage people to come on the Padron if they're non-residents, and then Benalmádena, they won't let you on unless you're a resident. And then if there's any sort of query with your address at the foreigners office, if you're registering as a resident, we once had this. This was a couple of years ago with an EU citizen, where the foreign offices, you don't necessarily, when you register as an EU citizen for your small green card residency, have to be on the Padron because you declare on your X18 the address. Though we always advise you always advise to take one, because they may ask you for one, and it's also very good proof of address of where you're going to be living. So it's a little bit grayscale. We had a problem with one where they insisted that they saw the proof of address, which was the Padron, and then we go to the town hall with the client, and the town hall say you can't get on the Padron unless you've got a residency. Mm-hmm. So there was a bit of a argy-bargy, which we managed to sort out in the end. But yeah, places like Benalmádena certainly insist that you're a resident, or that you're going to be resident to be able to sign on.
I like that phrase. It's a little bit grayscale. That kind of sums it up for bureaucracy, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Liz says, good morning, Chris. She's on YouTube aromatherapy and stuff. I said she was on YouTube yoga. So that's one of her other sites. But so if anyone wants to ask her questions, she's there as well. And one question came in. If you're living in Spain for more than 6 months, is it a legal requirement to be on the Padron?
No, I don't think that you'll be arrested and taken off to jail if you don't sign on, but it's certainly a good idea to sign on. There's many people don't sign on, but it's not a legal requirement, but it's certainly a good idea, support your town as well.
Yeah. And somebody else said, why is it essential?
It's essential for the town. So the three reasons we're talking about: the town helps. It helps them. More people in the town, more money the town can ask for. It's your proof of address if you ever need it. So this can be used as a Padron certificate, can be used as proof of address in the Tráfico, Foreigners Department, Social Security, basically everywhere that you would need to prove your address will take this as certificate as the proof. So yeah, I've
actually got a list here. Let's see if we can add anything else to this one. I got health centre registration, buying a car, getting your kids into schools, any facilities offered by Social Security, importing a car, qualifying for Spanish driver's license, and getting a pensioner's card.
Yes. No, that's a good
full list.
That's a very good full list. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely. And then obviously, if there is any, as we were saying about earlier on, if there's any local activities or locals, I was saying, mentioned to you about our local swimming pool. We've got a local swimming pool where people on the Padron get preferential access, and our kids can get classes and stuff for very cheap prices. So there's that kind of thing as well. You might find that helps. And the pensioner's card, that's something that's not very widely spoken about, and a very good thing to have.
Mm-hmm. So maybe cheap bus fare, cheap travel and stuff.
Cheap menu of the day as well. There's various places like there's a place in the Cala de Mijas which does a menu for I think it's €10, and it's really good. But if you've got a pensioner's card, you can get it for like €6 or something.
Wow, I can't wait to get even older. So let's see. The next question actually is, I've had lots of different questions about this one, and we were talking about it. Is there a time limit on the Padron? Does it need renewing?
Good question. So first of all, going back to, the couple of town halls which allow non-residents, and I've expressed my opinion on that, say that you have to go and reiterate your circumstance after 2 years. Okay, so it comes at the bottom. All right, but again, I don't do that because I don't suggest it, don't agree with it. But if you're a resident here in Spain and you've signed on the Padron, every 5 years, You have to go. Now, you don't necessarily have to go and pull another certificate, but you have to go and prove that you're still living in the place that you're living and your circumstance. You might find that they'll take your documentation as well, make sure it's up to date. So you've got an up-to-date passport and your residency card is in order. So it's every 5 years. But that brought us to the 3-month question, didn't it? Where
Let's just show this one on screen, because there was a thread that let's just put this full screen. No, it's all right. I think you can read it there. One person asked, it's Christina Griffin. Hello, Christina. She said, why is it only valid for 3 months? And Anik Miesel said, why was I told when I renewed mine that it was valid for 5 years? I would like an official view on this. Not perhaps, but definite. So let's have the definite answer.
Let's give you the official Upsticks view.
Yeah.
So you have to, for every 5 years is when you have to go back and, as I say, reiterate your circumstance. Normally, a lot of the town halls actually send you out a letter or something, or I think now moving forward, it'll probably be done digitally if they've got your details, like your email address, to remind you that you have to go. Okay. Now the 3-month thing, it doesn't have to be renewed every 3 months. Now it's only if you need to prove your address and you need a PADRON to prove your address, you have to go and get one, and that can't be older than 3 months or 90 days at whatever organization you're using to prove your address. So the most common one would be the DGT, traffic authorities. They won't accept a PADRON which is over 90 days old, because if you turn up a PADRON from 2019 and say, oh, this is where I live, I want to register a car, they're going to go, no, it's got to be current within 90 days, which proves that you haven't moved within the last 90 days.
Cool.
So that's basically,
I think that covers the confusion. I see, yeah, there's always some kind of confusion between that 3 months, 2 years, 5 years. I think that covers it. I understand it now from what you've said. So what happens, did we ask about the student? What happens if you're a student and you've not found long-term accommodation but need to be on that?
I've never come across it, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, there's various places which there's, for example, these mobile home sort of sites which people don't actually have a permanent fixture. There's in Antiquaria, a lot of these places, and there's a lot of campsites here where people are permanently at the campsite, but it's not a permanent address. So in Marbella, I know they allow people to sign on with the various documents from reception, from the place where they're at the campsite, but it's a permanent fixture. And they seem to have an agreement there. I know, because we've done residencies with people in places. And so I assume with students it's probably the same thing, but to be honest, I haven't had any experience. Our demographic of clients isn't really students.
Yeah, I had another question. What if I live in a caravan or a shack in the woods? Do I still register? So it's the same answer, really, isn't it?
As long as that's got a registration, as long as it's got to be habitable as well. So you can't, if you do live in a shack in the woods and it's not registered, you're not going to get a PADRON.
No,
that's the problem. So
it's got to be kind of an official registered address. Where are they all registered?
At the land registry. So the town hall will be able to check the address against. Normally, this goes back to the catastral reference of the property. So normally, and again, all town halls are slightly different, but on a rental contract or a property deed, you'll have a catastral reference. That reference is public knowledge. If you can go online and check where that property is, if you like, on the website, or they would normally check that reference against your application. So when you go, you take your documents, the lady or man at the desk will just put it in. He'll say, yep, that all matches up. Property's good. There's your PADRON. That's a stamp, by the way. That's a stamp.
I got that. It's a good mind. Thank you. What if someone was, say if you're staying at your friend's house and you don't have a rental agreement, could you still get on the PADRON there?
Yeah, most times, yes. Most times you can. So now this is a good question, actually. If you're staying at a friend's house, that friend will need to go along with you and declare basically you're staying at that address. So they may have to sign what we call a declaración responsable. Depending on each town will slightly different. Or you may have to have an annex to your contract. So if you're renting contract, if you're renting, then the person who's letting that apartment, if you're just letting someone stay, they may need to be informed and add an annex to the contract, and then you use that. If it's your property, for example, I did this years ago. A member of family of mine came over and they lived with us for a while, and I just went to the town hall, said this person's now living with me, and they let them on the Padron. So yeah, if a good question, which has happened, what if I've got non-resident, this happened to me this week, this is what I just remembered, non-residents' parents, and I'm going to go and live in their property, but they own it. Do they have to give me a rental contract or something like that? No, there is actually a contract which states that you're not paying any money to the people, but you live there. It's called carencia. So you can actually do a contract which states where you're living, those people are allowing you to live there, but that you're not paying any money to live there because they're members of the family.
Where do you get one of those from?
The templates online, so it depends really. You can either use a template online, or a lot of people get estate agents or a Hestor to write one up as well, depending on who handles their affairs. Normally, it's worth checking if you're a non-resident owner paying non-residence tax and someone's living in your property, how that's going to affect you anyway. So at that point, you'd get the contract written up.
Good stuff. I had some more quick questions. When we were talking about this, we didn't think we'd cover half an hour on this question, but we're rapidly approaching 10 o'clock now. So I'll get through the last couple of questions. What do you do if you lose your Padron form and need to prove your address? Quick answer to that one.
Go get another one.
Go get another one. Right. And if you have several properties in different municipalities, do you need to be in the Padron in each place?
No, you can't. You have to be at your main point of residence. You can only be on the Padron in one place.
Brilliant. And there was, let's see this one. Let's share the screen for this one. Lynn Kellychan said, what's the legal requirement for Nero in the Valencian region?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd imagine it's the same as everywhere else. You have to go, and there's 3 points. A, prove who you are, so your passport, etc., and B, prove where you live, and C, if necessary, prove that you can legally live there, or that person, if they're renting to you, can legally rent out that property to you. So like what we said before. Brilliant.
And that covers all the questions. And that's the only time we made it within half an hour. And if anyone else has any more questions, then you can ask them in the comments below, and I'll get you the answers. I'll answer them, or I'll ask Chris. I was going to ask you for a travel report to fill in the time, but no, there's not time now. So I'm going to.
No, I had some clients turn up yesterday at the airport who had absolutely nothing, just got booked a flight, got in. Wow. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. The travel report is that there's a lot of more aeroplanes going over. I can tell you that now.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot more.
That's live. There we go then. So time for you to go and take your boy for golf.
Yep, I've got to go. Okay, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure as usual, and every week it gets closer to seeing you there, actually live in the flesh in front of me without a screen. Should we do a broadcast from your place or mine? I don't know.
Wonderful. From the pub, that's what we need to do.
From the pub, broadcast from the pub. All right. Yeah. Everybody say thank you to Chris, then goodbye, Chris. See you again next time.
Cheers.
Bye. There you have it then. So if you've gained some insight from this video, then click on the like, thumbs up. Thank you so much. Next week on YouTooSpain, I will be talking to a man who's got a property company over in, I think, Murcia or Almeria or one of those places over towards the East Coast. And so we'll be talking about property, or we'll actually maybe be talking about as well, because he had a heart problem and had to use the emergency health service. So we might be talking about the health service and how good it is in Spain. But I will update you on the YouTooSpain Facebook group or the Facebook page. So please do sign up for that as well. Find us under YouTooSpain there. And that will be at the usual time next week of 9:30 if you're GMT +1 in the UK or Ireland, or 10:30 if you're in Spain. And let's see now, anything else you need to know? Yes, don't forget to check out the Liz and Skatz channel. We broadcast usually live on Wednesday evenings about our journey to move to Spain. and also about their health thing that we've been on for the last year and losing all that weight. And let's see, anything else? YouTube yoga and YouTube aromatherapy. Those are Liz's channels. You can get free yoga and meditation classes on there. Lots of different classes and information. And of course, the t-shirts, merchandise, hoodies, etc. page. All of these things are in the links below. And that is all for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. And please subscribe and click on the bell, ting, if you haven't already. And I will see you soon. Peace and love. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.